When I was 8 years old, I remember that I didn't like vegetables at all. I think most of us didn't like it. Um, but I did like a lot of fictional things like movies or cartoons. I really liked Indiana Jones and fictional people like MacGyver or Carl Sagan. No, Carl Sagan was real. It's just kidding. It's just that he was so awesome that he could have been as well fictional. And that was one of the problems I had when I was growing up. I didn't differentiate quite well what a fictional thing versus a reality thing was. But coming back to vegetables, my mom comes one day and she serves the lunch. Vegetables are there, and she serves the carrots. She forgot them. It was in a separate plate. And she says, okay, please start eating. I didn't want to eat. She says, Carlos, please at least eat the carrots. And I said, no, they're vegetables. And she says, no, they're not. What do you think? They're orange. Kind of made sense for me. And I started eating them. And some years later, when I was in the university, I'm having lunch with my friend. He's a vegetarian. He has carrots. I take one of them, start eating, and he says, so you like vegetables after all? And I say, no, I don't. Then why are you eating carrots? What's going on? So carrots are vegetables. And I say, no, they're not. They're orange. What do you think? And then we had this long conversation where I ended up realizing two things. One of them was that carrots were vegetables. And the second, that I was kind of living a lie, like after many years, just because I was naive between, I couldn't really differentiate those things. And I think that sometimes that's beautiful, because it sets you free to discover, to face new challenges, and to face huge challenges that you are not even aware of. And sometimes it can put you one step forward toward adventure, and you just don't think about it, right? Back in 2008, a French car company, they, they set a challenge for everyone in the world. They were asking people to design the car for the future megalopolis where everyone would live in. And the only part that I could read in those lines were megalopolis. That sounded like a really awesome scenario, right? It was actually up to me to decide what this scenario would be. It sounded so exciting, and then I come with the most boring idea ever. I come with, there was a, what if there was a vehicle that was able to fit in our spaces, but also to expand and go faster to take people to their destinations? It's not the most exciting idea, but being naive was actually what led me to present the idea, especially coming from a country where we don't really know what design is, and you think that everything's impossible. Well, I just presented it. It ended up being a full-scale model. It was insane. That's crazy, because then I was able to tell the story about how this crazy machine, thanks to a lot of crazy features, because I'm kind of a fan of mechanical engineers, and was having to improve these people's experiences. Suddenly, this story that wasn't that good ended up being kind of a good story. And that's the thing. Sometimes you are facing things that you don't understand, and it's okay. It's okay to not understand things, because it's exciting. It's exciting to discover things, and especially when there are fictional realities or real realities. And when you're facing real things, that's when it becomes more exciting yet. Back in 2013, my teammates, my classmates in my master back in Sweden, we had given a brief. We were asked to design solutions for respiratory assisted treatments in premature infants. As you see, it's really complex, and it's a treatment that takes about 2 months. It's basically a treatment that allows kids to learn how to breathe, to make their lungs stronger through warm and humid air. So the subject was so complex that we entered to this adventure to start to measure and to map all the different stages of this process. And Martin Edlund and me We teamed up because we found that during the first stages, the very first seconds of life, there was something going on. We noticed that there is some devices that try to replace this kind of complex setup, and just because, of course, they need to resuscitate the baby, they need to put him to breathe. But the problem with this device exactly is that it pushes cold air, and it can make life harder for the baby once it's growing up, bringing like long-term complications in terms of respiratory things or even brain injuries. So we thought about some ideas. We started prototyping them, and we thought, okay, let's put ourselves in the place of the doctors. We need something really quick to put. And we started thinking, yeah, there are some really cool features. You can read here all the lectures and those things. And we started liking this one because it was so fast to adapt. But we might have ended up having a lot of babies with flat noses. So that was a very high problem. We ended up mixing all of it, and we created this sort of device that basically it sets up everything before the baby arrives to the emergency room. It's basically a band that has all the connections already there for having this warm and humid air, and taking the possibility to assist the baby in the best way as possible, and also to prepare the baby for a long-term treatment seamlessly. So the thing is, we needed to put ourselves in the place of the baby. We needed to put ourselves in the place of the doctors as well. So it's not just about thinking all the problems that are there, but if you are capable enough to put in somebody's places, it's something that can be extremely rewarding. Because in that moment when you're starting to research, that's when you set yourself as an explorer. I'm from Colombia. I'm from a small town. And being Colombian, we've been living a war almost for 50 years. And it's on the back of our minds that there are a lot of people getting injured and a lot of people missing their limbs. It doesn't matter if they're adults or if they're kids. And that's something really hard to know. But I'm telling you this because while I was working for the brick company that makes toys, I realized how fascinating and magical these toys are. They're basically capable of building anything you want, and not just by yourself, but with your friends, your family. And this was the thing that clicked with me. What if I was able to mix this social experiment with how hard it is for kids to grow up when they have a disability? Right now, prosthetics are awesome. You can see this stuff. You can measure things, you can sense heat, and everything's getting more awesome. But the thing is that when it comes to kids, it's basically a miniature version of this. And being a kid, I would say it's a little bit more complex than that. Because you're growing up, you need to learn a lot of things. You need to, of course, you need to learn how to tie your shoes, but you also need to communicate, to collaborate, to have friends, even if you don't like it, because then you will learn that you don't like having friends, right? But then I asked myself, they are the only ones who actually know what they need. And I asked, what if kids could build their own prosthetics according to their own needs, just like while they're having fun, while they're actually kids? Because that's something that happens when you have a disability. A kid needs to grow up faster in mentally than it's expected. And then I thought, what is a good place to do that? And I thought Colombia. Why? First, because I love my country. Second, because I really wanted to be friends with these guys. When you're trying to be friends with a kid, you have such a small window, and the language is really important. And thanks to a non-profit organization, I was able to connect with Dario and his family. And it was a great experience. I got to be with him like almost 24 hours entirely, going with them through his school, through his house, through his cousins, like following everything he was doing until the point he shared something with me, and that was my rewarding moment.
¿Y cómo funciona el ojo de la
O sea, él lo hace, o sea, como es parte de su cuerpo, entonces él piensa a dónde hacerlo.
And this was nuts. I couldn't believe my eyes, because this guy was telling exactly what I was thinking about. And when this happened, I got so excited that I needed to do something about it. Those are the moments when projects have this life of their own, and the only way to go through it is do something about it. But then I thought back, I kind of calmed a little bit, and then I thought, okay, wait a second. How the hell I'm going to pretend that kids are going to build a prosthetic, right? Even if I don't know how to do it. So I had to really start from scratch. I had to think, okay, what are prosthetics like? And as you see, prosthetics are kind of simple. Basically, they're a bunch of parts that you put together and start working, right? But what would it be a good way to communicate this to kids? So imagine this. You have a bunch of parts, right? If you put them together, you have a building, right? If you have two of these buildings, and if you find a way to communicate in a simple way, suddenly they become a module. And this was something that was maybe feasible for kids. So I needed to test that right away. So I embarked myself into this kind of crazy adventure. I went to Colombia, and then I needed to answer a lot of questions. One of them would be, what kids would be able to understand what modularity is? Would kids would be able to understand how this crazy prosthetic that I was doing would be working, or connecting or disconnecting? Would they, for instance, be interested in applying these bricks into their prosthetics? And even better, if they would be able to open themselves to explore crazy things, right? Because it was about challenging the traditional idea of hands, that you need a hand. Maybe you don't need a hand. Maybe you need a backhoe or one of these crazy things. And so I set this test for Dario and his family. And the idea was to create a set that was so hard to build that family would chip in. They would start helping him. And after a while, I discovered that it was actually working, that family, they were joining in this experience, and all of them, they were really happy with the result. But moreover, I realized that one of the coolest things is that I saw that Dario suddenly had way more hands than I could ever imagine. So I decided to make a second test. At the second test, where I had a more simple set that he could build along with a friend, because I was really interested in the interaction between his colleagues, his friends. And the first thing I asked his friend is, what do you think about Dario? He says, I feel sorry for him because he doesn't do a lot of things that I can do. So after that, we started playing. We started building this crazy spaceship. We started exploring things. And actually, it was Dario himself who was teaching the guy how the prosthetic was working. He said, like, you just put this thing together, and then you put it here, and that's it. It was like, oh, all right. So I got a little bit motivated, and I started sharing with them a little bit more. Okay. I even showed them this part, which is basically a hacking of an existing building instruction that you can do. You can actually, with this system, connect almost every set of these magical bricks and put it into your arm. So after this, I asked his friend what he thought about Dario, and he says, I want one of those. And that was the crazy thing, because that's something that I didn't expect. I was expecting to see a kid actually using the bricks, his family going with it, but I didn't expect to see a normal kid changing his mindset about what disability meant. Suddenly, I felt and I realized that this product was not something just for one kid, but maybe for more kids. It was something that could be something that would be able to make everyone aware of what was going on. And everything was thanks to play. Because when you approach things through a fun element, you just lose your fears. And the thing is that this doesn't stop here. Suddenly, when I was going into this journey, I realized that it has so much potential of impacting people's lives. So in Colombia, we decided to make a test also thanks to an advertising company.
Y si un niño te pide una ficha para completar su brazo así, ¿se la regalas?
Sí. Obvio. Por supuesto que sí.
So in this case, what we thought is, what if we go to school and we ask kids if they have bricks? Kids were answering, yes, we do have bricks. We were asking them, would you give away one of your bricks to one of your friends? And they said, no, they're mine. Then we shared with them the video and we asked them, would you give away one of your bricks to a kid to build his own arm? And they said, yes, absolutely. And suddenly we saw this huge potential of changing kids' mindsets. So we decided to take this even one step further, and we started to engaging with schools. We went to a school and we asked them, okay, guys, what if we come here and we tell you that if you create this science club, maybe you will be able to work with kids with and without disability, and to learn about robotics, to learn about coding, and to maybe even prototype things right away. Even better, thanks to this nature of the bricks, you could create building instructions and you could share it with a kid that is maybe in South Africa or even in Sweden. And suddenly we realized something. It is a project that has a huge potential to impact lives. And this is something you realize when you are in this adventure of working in a challenge. Suddenly you're naive enough to put yourself into a gigantic challenge that will definitely push you to the limit to become a different person, and then to realize that the only thing you can do is to do something about it. So after a while, you start thinking that maybe the thing that you don't care the most is about making cool things. It's about making cool cars, or even making kids superheroes. Maybe it's about helping. Maybe it's about helping your kid to eat his carrots. Maybe it's about making all of us a little bit more human. Thank you.